culture. Please welcome Anthony.
When I say "enleo," I'd like you to repeat it back. "Enleo." When I say "ndewo," please repeat it back. "Ndewo." Now, when I say "sanu," I'd like you to say "yagajia." "Sanu." When I say "vado," please say "oboshan." "Vado." Wow, great job. We just greeted each other in 4 different African languages. Greetings are at the epicenter of African language and culture. They affirm dignity, humanity, encode respect, and moral upbringing. That's why they're taught to children at a very young age. It's for that reason that I firmly believe that children are at the center of everything that we build. The truth is, I'm here today standing in front of you because of 3 little girls in my house. Now, after graduating high school, I had what some might call a quarter-life crisis. I found myself asking, who am I? For the longest time, I had regarded myself as African American, but this identity didn't fully encapsulate who I am. Growing up, whenever the teacher would do roll call, I would always hear names like Martin, Johnson, Smith. But then the teacher would always get to me and I'd hear something like, Otaigbe. My name always stuck out like a sore thumb. And I didn't even know what it meant. Then I discovered the source of my confusion. My foundational identity was fragile. I was born to Nigerian immigrants, raised in America, grew up in a household where half the time I didn't even understand the language being spoken. So I started to wonder, how do I fit into a world if I don't understand my own history and language? If I don't know my language, how do I contribute to an increasingly interconnected world? And now, as a parent, how do I prevent my kids from experiencing this same cognitive dissonance? That was the moment I said, enough. Not just as a son, not just as a father, but as a builder. Now, I'm a CPA, certified public accountant by training, and we're taught and trained to be precise. This precision helped me to be strong in English. But when it came to learning ASAN, precision wasn't quite helpful. ASAN needs context. In ASAN, the meaning of a word can change depending on the situation. And the context of individual relationships shapes that meaning. For example, if I was to say, it's dark, some of you may interpret that to mean, well, that's a scientifically observable fact. After the Earth rotates 180 degrees away from the sun, the result is darkness. But some others may say, well, I think what he means is, it's time for us to round up whatever we're doing and head home. And so the more I studied these nuances in ASAN, the clearer it became that long before the world ever spoke of technology, Africa had already given humanity its first innovation: language. Just as the modern human being originated from Africa, so did language. Research from MIT shows that all languages originated in Africa 135,000 years ago. That means that before we started writing, we were talking to each other just like this for a very, very long time. In essence, all human languages spoken today descend from civilizations that first learned to speak here in Africa. And the evidence is still here. Africa holds the greatest linguistic diversity on Earth, just as it holds the greatest genetic diversity. In other words, language didn't arrive in Africa. Language departed from Africa, carried by human beings as they spread across the world. Language is older than every innovation we celebrate today. Language is how we stored memory before we built libraries. Language is how we passed knowledge before we had schools. Language is how we preserved identity before we had passports. Africa gave humanity its first technology. If you want to know the strength of a civilization, look no further than the strength of its language. And in Nigeria, our languages are under threat. Nigeria is one of the most linguistically diverse countries in the world, with over 500 indigenous languages spoken across the nation. Yet according to UNESCO, at least 29 of those languages are endangered, on the brink of extinction, and at least 12 are already gone. These aren't just statistics. These represent living cultures, histories, worldviews, slipping quietly out of existence. I founded TEDxAIS on the stubborn belief that no Nigerian language should be left behind. We built our platform so that any child can learn their mother tongue or learn using their mother tongue. Through TEDxAIS, we're building a new ecosystem where languages are no longer endangered, but empowered. And so that's the reason why we work with ministries of education across the nation that understand that mother tongue is not sentimental nostalgia. It's an educational strategy. A child who understands in their first language learns faster. Neuroscience proves this. It shows that the most important window for language acquisition is from birth to age 7. That's because the brain is still forming the structures that support thinking itself. Research shows that children who master their mother tongue during these early years build strong cognitive foundations and greater confidence that carries forward into everything they learn next. That window doesn't open later. If we miss it, we don't just lose a language, we lose potential. A child who learns faster dreams bigger. A child who dreams bigger grows a nation. Now let me be honest, I don't speak English to my children. I made that decision when they were born. I'm not going to pretend it was easy. It often felt lonely, almost crazy, because everyone around them spoke English. The nanny, aunties, uncles, cartoons, grandparents, books, school. Sometimes it felt impossible. But over time, something unexpected happened. One evening, I was reading my daughter a book in English. She listened quietly. Then she stopped me and explained the story back to me in Esa. That's when I realized she wasn't just learning 2 languages, she was learning how to think between them. And in that moment, I saw something shift. The language was no longer something that was imposed on her. It was something that she owned. And perhaps the most important change wasn't linguistic at all. When she speaks our language, she stands differently. She asks questions differently. She knows she belongs to a story that didn't begin with her and that won't end with her. So yes, there were days where it felt hopeless. But with every word, every story, every correction, we weren't just moving towards proficiency. We were building confidence, memory, and identity, one sentence at a time. Now to the students, you're growing up in a world that's constantly telling you, be global, be modern, be competitive. But let me tell you the truth. The most powerful way to be global is to be rooted. Language roots you. Your language isn't a barrier. It's a superpower. It's who you are. If you lose your language, you lose part of yourself. If you keep it, you carry the strength of generations into the future. To my fellow parents and educators, we want our children to compete globally. You can teach your children math and English if you have to, but tell your stories in your mother tongue. Let them dream in multiple languages. Let them belong to multiple worlds. Forgetting who you are isn't a prerequisite for success. Now let me end where I began, with my daughters. One day I asked my oldest, why is it important to learn ASAN? And she said, so that when the spirits talk, we'll understand them. Language isn't just communication. Language is memory. Language is identity. My name is Anthony, Otaigbe, and that means he whom words cannot harm. Thank you.